Hey there again. In this video, I want to talk about consciousness and how it relates to decisions we make every single day. As I've mentioned in a previous video, consciousness really is the tool, the vehicle in which we use to create and form our reality around us. So whenever I want to make a decision, I try my very best to intentionally craft a decision, wording it explicitly to align to my survival metrics. Now, if you don't know what that means, video over here on your right. So when we create a decision with our consciousness and it's aligned to our survival, chances are increased to that decision will come about. Now, whenever I am in a situation, a life-threatening situation, to use the example, that decision that ultimately leads to my survival in the heat of the moment, I'm also going to be using consciousness to encapsulate that and to entomb this in an emotional imprint, so I don't have to go through that whole distressing situation again. So if anything even remotely smells or echoes of the original threatening situation, well, I've already made that decision and I'm going to save myself the trouble, and I'm just going to activate and call upon my emotional imprint. I know how to survive because I've done it once before. There we go. I don't have to do anything else again. The trouble, though, you might already start to see is, well, what if the context is different? What if the outcomes are going to be different because either I'm more capable or I'm stronger or I'm more intelligent or I'm older? The same pattern still plays out though. If I shut down at the threat of force as a young child and I don't want to confront my father when he's angry, well, when I'm older, I carry that into all of my interactions with male superiors, and I shut down at any sort of confrontation or any hint of confrontation. It plays out as if that original situation is still happening. That consciousness that I use to make the original decision is still actively creating that original situation and the resulting decision I've made to this day. Every single moment, every single day, you're creating the original event and your original decision. And you're living as if that's still true today. These are the emotional imprints. Now, they can be helpful or they can be harmful. This depends on your context and where you're at in life. The things when you were 8 years old might not readily apply to you today, so you don't need those anymore. But if you don't review those emotional imprints and the root echo of it, like what actually happened, you can't release the consciousness that's trapped in that decision. You don't want that decision to continue to play out and out and out and over again. This is called the Vitras, the Yoga Sutras of Patanjali. This is the whirlpool that's in your mind while you repeat the same old habits, the same old patterns, those addiction cycles, because there is some decision that was made at some point ago that is continuing this cycle and continuing this pattern, and your consciousness is creating that reality in which that is true. So if you don't want it to be true anymore, you got to find that root echo. You got to find what's truly underneath this emotional imprint. Understanding it thereby releases the consciousness back to you. So let's take an example where I have 100 units of consciousness, and I'm going to use one of my units of consciousness to encode a life-threatening situation when I was roller skating as a kid. Well, when that happened, I decided, well, I should never roller skate again, or I should never roller skate, or roller skating's bad. Whatever that decision is, I freeze frame it in consciousness, or I encapsulate it in consciousness, encoding that memory, the event, the perceptions, and my decision all into an emotional imprint. I'm encoding that and tucking it away. So now going forward, I never encountered that situation again. It colors my daily interaction. But however, because I've encoded this situation with one unit of consciousness, I can no longer use it. I can no longer use that unit of consciousness for active creation today. And this is how I limit my ability to create. This is how I limit my ability to have any sort of cause upon my reality surrounding myself. Because that's just one. But let's say you have hundreds and hundreds of these situations that you have encoded and imprinted upon your emotions, and now you have to navigate moment to moment. You're holding up and you're propping up all these situations that you can't have, or you can't be, or you shouldn't be around. And what is your life today? Well, you are very anemic as far as your capacity to harness consciousness is concerned. So you can't create anything. Like you're completely and purely at the whims of the surrounding winds of change surrounding you. The chaos of life is hitting you completely unbuffered. You're unsheltered in the storm. And this is the understanding of how our consciousness can get trapped. And in later videos, we'll talk about freeing that up. Because we must free this up if we're going to live a life of freedom for ourselves and for our families. We have to take full responsibility of it all. And with that, take care.